Evening televiewers, you're welcome to this other edition of Prime Hour on My Media Prime. This day we are going to be looking at corruption in Cameroon, asking the question why nobody in the public service or many persons are not scared by the actions of CONAC, ANIF and other institutions set in place to fight corruption. Why is it still going on, especially with the recent request from the presidency to investigate how funds that were made available to fight COVID have been used? We also are going to be looking at the issue of unemployment in Cameroon, asking why it has been sustained for a very, very long time. Also trying to relate it to the syndrome of the matricule. Almost everybody in Cameroon, when you are in school, the key fight and expectation is for a daughter, a son, a friend to acquire a matricule number with the public service. Is that why there is a very, very high rate of unemployment in Cameroon, with the youth having very little regard for the private sector? We are going to be discussing this with our panelists. Two of them are seated already. Prince Will Kotem, a militant of the MP3 movement, Shom right, is in the studio with us. Good evening and welcome.
Thank you very much, Mr. Kum Leonard. Good evening to my fellow panelists on the other side, Mr. Tah Mai Javis. I'm really delighted to be here this evening to partake in this very important talk that has to do a lot with our country and with the most with what is happening in our country today. We keep seeing organs being created on a daily basis, and we see the corruption rate increasing in the country, young people involving, and most importantly with more young people out there. So I think it is really a very rich topic that we'll have to talk about. Thank you very much, and a happy warm evening to all the televiewers of My Media Prime, especially those in Yaoundé and here in Douala, especially Balikumba community in Bonaberi. Good evening.
Okay. We also are in the company of Tah Mai Javis. Good evening and welcome, Javis.
Good evening, Leonard. Good evening to Prince. Good evening to all the political stakeholders in Cameroon, from President Paul Biya, Maurice Kamto, Chairman John Fundi, Prince Ekoso, Senior Barrister Ashu, and all those who are making strides to ensure that our nation move on in a democratic, peaceful, and unity way. I want to say good evening, especially the businessmen and women in the North and Southwest region. It's quite a difficult period for them. I want to say courage, brothers and sisters, do not stop.
Okay, we are expecting Prince Noel to join us in the course of this discussion. We have been told by the representative of the PCRN movement that they won't be able to make it, as well as Andre Nateme Bako. He just wrote to me this evening that he will not be able to join us, but we will start our discussions with those who are present in the studio here with us. I'll start with, we are starting with corruption. Prince Will Kotem, we have seen the government multiply efforts for decades now. It started with former Prime Minister Ewane. He came up with an operation. We've seen different operations. We saw how the funds that were made available to Cameroon to fight HIV, how some of them were swindled. But to think that in 2021 money is made available for COVID, and seemingly people are still tampering with it. It's to say that people are not scared of the agencies set in place to investigate embezzlement.
Mr. Leo, corruption in Cameroon is some sort of, it seems to be a virus, more pandemic, a pandemic rather, because it's really, it seems to be a virus, and it's so alarming that one could want to compare it to, if you have to borrow the word pandemic nationally, we will say, because if we look critically, we talked about ANIF, we talk about CONSUPE, we talk about CONAC and the like. Well, pronouncing them, we realize that there are multiples of these institutions that have been put in place in order to cop out one and the same thing, which is corruption. It therefore means that corruption has gotten to the height where it is being fought from all angles. And we will ask the question, for example, look at ANIF. ANIF, that's Agence Nationale d'Investigation Financière, that was created in 2005 by the presidential decree, by a decree in 2005. We have CONSUPE, we have CONAC, all these institutions created with an objective. That objective is to cop out corruption. ANIF itself particularly was being put in place in 2005 at a time where the government thought that the institutions in place were believed to be more corrupt than any other thing. At that time, ANIF was being put in place to fight money laundering, to fight other financial crimes, to ensure that all these ills are being met with stiff resistance. But we see from 2005 onward, right to date, before 2005, even up to date, we are in 2021 today, and we're still talking about corruption. Not only corruption, but it is increasing. It's a very rampant rate and increasing in such a way. And now we're being tempted to ask the question, with all this multiplicity of institutions that are being put in place in order to ensure that this syndrome or this virus is being curbed, but the act is still increasing. So what therefore is really the cause that actually pushes these people who are engaged in such practices to continue without fear of these institutions that are in place? I want to put the first point forward, which is I term it to be partisan politics in public administration. How does partisan politics in public administration actually increase or boost corruption in Cameroon? Now, looking at the fact that Cameroon is being ruled by a regime that has been in place for over 38, 39 years. And this regime is very stem to, like every other regime in power, we want to continue conserving power. And they have gone to the length where they dominate the politics within the country with the political party, which is the dominant one, is the one in power. And this political party has most of its members, or if not all of its members, are top-ranking positions and at the helm of most of these very big institutions that are in place in order to manage the affairs of this country. Now, owing to the fact that these people belong to one political party, whom they are the ones heading the institutions in this country, it gives them that laxity to go ahead. Let's take, for example, Chantier Naval. At the time where Fonjinda was still at Chantier Naval, I think he left Chantier Naval with about 30, if I'm not mistaken, 33 to 4 or above billion CFA as the capital. But today we're talking about Chantier Naval, about 3 billion as the capital, or the running capital of that company. We don't want to only live at that level, stop at that level. You have other top government officials that are in prison today because they mismanage and embezzle state funds in such a very disgusting manner that if you understand the magnitude and the amount in which one person embezzle, then you tend to ask the question, what is happening with all these institutions in place? It doesn't just end there, Mr. Kum. I also want to push forward that the dependent nature of these institutions on other state institutions is also another reason for which these people who engage in these acts push them to go ahead without any fear. Why? Because take, for example, CONSUPE, CONAC. Any time they want to come out to strike or to do anything, it must be upon a recommendation from, for example, from the Presidency of the Republic. But these are institutions that are being put in place in order to act independently. But we realize that their working scheme is being dependent, which therefore means that even if they have a matter in hand which they are supposed to resolve, but because of the fact that they are very dependent on a particular institution, which is the Presidency of the Republic, they always want to wait back. And what if the Presidency of the Republic doesn't actually ask them to do that? Because we can see recently with the coronavirus incidents, wherefore it is the institutions in place, or the CONAC, or these institutions that are supposed to fight this financial how can I put it, crimes that are there. They doesn't have that liberal hand, it doesn't have that power to do that. Now, we saw that it is the President of the Republic that asked the CONSUPE and other institutions to finance this thing, and which is not the best thing.
Yes, how do we explain this? 2021 COVID funds are tempered with, when we know that the fight against corruption has been there forever, for more than 30 years now.
Mr. Leo, it is a difficult situation that we find Cameroon to be into at the moment, because if we go from statistics, from Transparency International, you realize that in the late 1980s and early 1990s, Cameroon topped the chart among the most corrupt nation in the world. And as the government between 1990 to 1999, we still was among the top. We're among the top nations in the world. And at the late 2000s, initiatives were put in place to fight corruption, which we very much appreciated it. But if you look at the scale now of Cameroon between Transparency International, Cameroon is at least among the 30th, among the top 30 most corrupt nation in the world. And this therefore stem what could be the cost, as you rightly asked the question. The Transparency International gave 3 main reasons. One of the reasons they gave was the fact that when you have a stronger executive, when the executive arm is stronger in the nation, it breeds corruption because people tend to operate along the executive basis. Another issue is the aspect of lack of accountability, where people don't give account to their sector. And another issue too comes with the separation of power. When there's no separation of power in a nation, and the nation is bound to be the most corrupt, because if you look at all these nations that are giving the term that are most corrupt, you see that the aspect of separation of power is not there, where the executive has the power on the desk and determine what to do. So you cannot individually follow up somebody independently if that person actually siphon fund. So no, Mr. Leo, according to Transparency International data, it states that if you have a system where the executive is stronger than all the other arms, the executive is stronger because it uses a political might to take on dissent on those whom they found that they are threat to the executive system. But if you have a separation of power where the judiciary is independent and has that power to prosecute, you have the legislative arm is powerful, that aspect of corruption will not be there. Like in the case of Ewane and the rest. Basically, yes, they may be corrupt, they may have embezzled. Ewane was sentenced in 2013. You see that they may have been embezzled. But if you look into it, you see that there's a political line you cannot separate within it. Because how do you explain? You talk about COVID-19 fund. Let's keep aside the fund. Let's look at the palliatives. Rice, bags of rice were given prior to shutdown before we went on COVID shutdown. Till now, nobody can tell us how, when, and where those bags of rice went to. Okay. And if we have separation of power, these are issues where the legislative house should sit in and call those in question and probe them. Like you see, when you watch the U.S. Senate, you see they call ministers, they call directors, they call appointed officials to give account. And if they cannot give account, they are either sent to prison or they are either removed from the position. We don't have that. So in countries where you see high level of corruption, you should know that there is no separation of power. And countries that has low level of corruption, there is adequate separation of power, where a judge can sit and request or demand somebody to appear in court and explain the use of funds. But we don't have that. So yeah, the problem that we have in Cameroon, why the aspect of COVID fund can be embezzled, and the aspect of stadium like the Olympic Stadium, you still have to chip in money for the stadium to be completed after a certain amount of billions were given. It simply tells you that when the executive arm is stronger, within party line.
Prince Joel is here with us. Prince, he's raising the issue of separation of power, but stressing more on the lawmaking arm of the government, which is the legislative. But we have the judiciary that is there. Are we saying that they are not in the know of what almost everybody knows when we talk of corruption in Cameroon?
Yeah, good evening to you, Mr. Liu. Good evening to co-panelists, and good evening to those who are watching. My apologies that I'm late. It's traffic in Douala. I think that Javis has elaborated a good number of points. Now, before the judiciary comes in, there is an executive that has everything. Because if you even look at CONAC, who appoints the person who heads CONAC is the head of state. Is the head of state who appoints Diedone Masigam, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, but when the head of state appoints, he expects results now.
Mr. Leo, now, he expects results, it's true. But now, many a time we've seen Cameroonians, we've seen ministers who've bypassed decisions taken by prime ministers. Now, if a minister can bypass a decision that is taken by a prime minister, you don't expect that individual, you don't expect certain individuals to expect Diedone Masigam. It means that even before the judiciary comes in, Mr. Leo, because CONAC is there to present facts to the judiciary. The judiciary doesn't get up to say, okay, Javis, you have embezzled 50 billion, you have embezzled 20 billion. CONAC presents facts to the judiciary. Okay, this is what we have to try this person. Now, when they've presented, now the judiciary is there to ensure that, because the judiciary is the law, it's just there to say that if you took 1 million francs, the law says that if you siphon money that wasn't,
yeah, they interpret the law.
They just tell you that it is article this/this. That's their job. It means that they're not there to get people. And now, Mr. Leo, when I look at my country, Cameroon, I want to believe that so far as the aspect of embezzlement and the corrupt practices in Cameroon is concerned, I think it's an issue of a network. It's a whole chain. Because you will want to agree with me that if you go even to normal prisons in Cameroon, you'll find individuals who are there because maybe they stole maybe just rice, or they went into a Magida shop and took maybe a crate of a tray of egg and maybe things like that. But now the actual persons who actually siphon much money are not the ones that are being tried.
Billions.
Billions. Mr. Lou, in this country, we have seen ministers while in prison who have celebrated marriages. We've seen ministers who have celebrated birthdays. Now, and I think that the objective of CONAC...
But does the law forbid that?
The law doesn't, but I felt that a prison is a correction center. That's the objective of a prison. If you're sent to a prison, it is that you committed a crime, so you go there and you don't commit that crime again. But now if people go to prison and they still have the same affluence that they had while they were outside, it means there is a problem. Because today, a very simple example. If CONAC actually was there, Prince has embezzled 50 billion. The objective is to take the money and reinvest the money. But now if CONAC takes people and sends to and presents to the judicial system, and the judicial system has as objective to ensure that these people go to prison. We've had people who have pleaded that they want to give everything they've embezzled. A case in point is the sum of Fosso. If Michel Fosso said, calculate everything you're saying I've embezzled and I'm paying it now, it means that he is willing, and I feel that, Mr. Leo, some of this money can be taken and reinvested in the country.
Now, you raised the issue of partisan politics being used public. As a cap, yes, as a cap to cover what many of them are doing. But are we saying that the party actually gives a green light for people to siphon? Or what are we saying? Is it because you belong to a political party that you have the latitude to go embezzling?
Thank you. No, the party doesn't give a green light. No party will want to do that. But now this is a calculated act. How is it being calculated? Like I said before, I said we have a regime that has been in power for as long as possible. And as every other regime, it still wants to hold in power. So it will do everything. And now this regime that we're talking about in Cameroon is that one which has his main powers from his party militants, which is the ruling party. Now, how does the ruling party keep in power? The former electoral processes have shown us. Now, you go during elections, you realize that the party militants will want to do everything possible in order to win seats for the party itself, which is a conglomerate. And these people ensure, how do they do it? They use every means that is within their disposal. Even they have to do using their posts, their offices, to influence people to come to their party, to vote for their party to remain in power. Now imagine a situation when you do that and you win. You're being appointed tomorrow to another place because you're the one that actually helped the party to move to that particular place. There is a laxity because you are in power. We've seen it in so many cases. Wherefore, you see ministers, directors, at a particular period of time, they wear the casket of a minister, and a particular period of time, they wear the casket of what? A secretary general of a particular party. They wear the casket of the director, the advisor of a party or whatsoever. These things actually push them forward to do that, because imagine I am the secretary general of the ruling party, or I am the communication secretary of the ruling party. At the same time, I'm a minister. Now, who are those who make the policies within the ranks of the party? We are the one. So what stops me actually from embezzling as a minister, going behind again, influencing another person whom is superior to me and has been appointed to another top ranking position, who is supposed to supervise me? This is how the thing works. It's not like they are being given a green light to do that, but it works that way because we are all together of the same house. So you can go on, and if the grandfather of the house or if the mates in the house haven't asked you, that is why you see most of these institutions are dependent. They are dependent on a particular institution, and most often it's the presidency of the republic. If the presidency hasn't said a word, they won't go on. Take another example. We have CONAC, we have CONSUPE, we have another thing, other organs out there. But now, with the issue of the embezzlement of the coronavirus funds, another task force has been created. What happens to CONAC? What happens to and the other people? This is a task force that has been created. But
CONAC is expected to present its findings at the end of the year. Monies are being chopped from COVID. So are we going to wait for CONAC to present its findings?
It must not only be at the end of the year, Mr. CONAC or ANIF or CONSUPE. What about CONSUPE?
CONSUPE is the same.
Yeah, that's how.
It's a whole ministry that takes its time to do its investigation. Maybe the government is considering that there is a crisis. IMF may also want to get clarifications on what is happening. So there is need for an urgent task force.
Maybe I should continue. That is why I'll move forward to say it is due to that fact that these institutions are also dependent on international institutions. Take for a very good example. We have this fund that has been dispersed. We have borrowed money in the international community, the IMF and the other people. We have national institutions that are supposed to carry out their duties in order to ensure that this money that has been borrowed is being applied as it is stated. That is why I also said they lack a roadmap. And this roadmap that they lack is being influenced by their dependent nature on the international bodies and the other international countries. We have this coronavirus fund that has been put in. It has been mismanaged, as we have seen it all. What happens? CONAC doesn't come up. CONSUPE, which is a ministry or an institution, doesn't come up. We wait for an international body who gave us the money to asking us to do what? Cross-check, to do checks and balances on this institution. Does it mean that within the ranks of our own country, we don't have that latitude, we don't have that sense of reasoning that we have to do control, we have to do checks and balances on people that we give them tax? Or are we saying, or are they telling us that the presidency is sleeping or other people are sleeping until when the international community has to wake them up before they can do something? In other words, we can say that means the Anglophone crisis that has been going on for 9 to 10 years, if another international community does not come and shout, we will never realize that anything is happening within our country until they will come and say. And this is why I said the dependent nature of these institutions and international, depending on other international bodies, is more what is happening and destroying our sovereignty in this country, which pushes for the corrupt nature of the country. How does it even enhance this? Remember, most of our head of our institutions are people who have studied out of the country on what they call boosts, on scholarships. And which are these countries? We know them. Most of them studied in France. And we understand very well that France has a very big role to play when it comes to Cameroon and the management of the Cameroonian administration and other things. Even though some people purport that no, it is dependent, but no. So these institutions, if they don't actually come in, we will see that our own national institution will still remain dormant, dependent, and very, very volatile as to what concerns their activities.
Tah Mai Javis, we are talking about corruption in Cameroon and asking why seemingly persons are not scared by the heavy hand of CONAC, ANIF, and the Ministry of Supreme State Audit. Now, the question is it that this persons, institutions, instances are not doing enough follow-up, that is scrupulously following up the implementation of projects and the way monies are used. The only way to come a year after, 2 years after, to find out how monies were used.
Mr. Leo, I think the problem with Cameroon is, like I said, the executive arm. And who are the executive? The executive starts from the president, the prime minister, the ministers, or the SDOs, and all these, the governors. These are executive. And when the executive arm is very strong in a country, there's a problem. And let me give you
separation of power.
A good example. Who appoints the executive in Cameroon is the executive. If we had a system where we have separation of power, where all appointees are vetted by the parliament, are vetted by the Senate, that you are appointed as a judge, but you must appear before the Senate or the parliament where you are vetted and you are looked upon, then you see that we start having a kind of honesty and follow-up. Mr. Leo, the simple answer to your question is that we don't respect the laws that we put in place. When we look at the aspect of corruption, many people, I think we tend to look at embezzlement and the rest, but our laws, when you don't respect that law, you are corrupt, you are stealing from the land. Look about declaration of asset. How many people in this country declare the asset? How many of those electors or those executive arm, starting from the presidency of the republic to the prime minister when they were appointed, right down to the DO and to the principal when they were appointed, respect that arm of the constitution which states that you must declare your asset? And if you don't do that, is that not part of CONAC? It's corruption, because that's an avenue, it's a green light to tell us that we don't know what you came in with, and when you are going back, we cannot tell whether you stole or you did not steal. So it's critical. That's the first arm. Secondly, why should we wait until IMF comes and tell us that check into your system and give me an account of the money you have used during COVID-19 that started in March 2020 right up to March 2021, which is a year which we should be expecting the analysis of CONAC. If CONAC gives at the end of the year. Logically, why should we wait? It means that if IMF had not told CONAC that come and investigate this, or had not told Cameroon government that needed it, will not have formed a commission, that's the first to tell you that we as individuals, we look at the money that people steal, but the laws that we don't respect give room to that. Mr. Leo, it's been normal that if you are in a town like Douala, where you have a roundabout and there is no traffic light, it's a latitude to go left or to go right. You don't wait for a vehicle to tell you. But when there's a green light in that junction,
when you say there are no green lights, we have CONAC, we have ANIF, we have an entire ministry in charge of checking all these things. Are these not green lights?
No, I'm telling you that.
Are in the different ministries?
No,
there are in the respective ministries. There are committees in charge of corruption.
Mr. For example, right into the parliament, you have such committee to ensure that there's
so
but the problem now is that this committee, who appoints them, the executive. Now, as long as you don't have separation of power, you can call it whatever name. You can even change it and put a task force or EFCC as we have in Nigeria. But as long as there is no separation of power, as long as these members are not vetted by the parliament, as long as these members don't respect the Article 16, I think, of the Constitution that talked about declaration of asset. Mr. The bottom line of fighting corruption will start with declaration of asset. When we start declaring our asset in Cameroon, it's easier for us to know who is stealing and who is not stealing. But if you cannot declare your asset, it tells us that you are stealing or you are not stealing. Look, a typical example. Let me come back to the same COVID issue that we are talking about. COVID started in March 2017, we started looking at COVID in Cameroon 2020. Mr. Leo, bags of rice, let me come to that issue of bags of rice. Maybe people don't know. We need CONAC saw those bags of rice. CONAC heard of it. But CONAC did not enforce it. Look at the issue of land in Boya. How long will it take CONAC to come to the issue of land that people have been shouting land, land, land? People have built their houses. People have not 1, not 2 years, not 3 years. CONAC is coming, and yeah, you see what CONAC is doing. They are not coming to Boyao to investigate. They are in Yaoundé, asking you, come with your file, bring your document, let's examine. Mr. Lo, it's a cacophony. In fact, I don't know how I can put it, but the bottom line is that the day we shall respect the Constitution, by not embezzling, because we are embezzling the constitution and we are corrupting the constitution by not respecting that arm of declaration of asset.
And let me just add to you, Tah Mai. Mr. Leo talked about the fact that these institutions are being created and being attached to various ministries and the like. I want to take a critical example right of ANIF. ANIF was being created in 2005 and was being placed under the Ministry of Finance. But it's still under the Ministry of Finance that we saw someone who embezzled jobs. He created fictive jobs, 2,000 and plus, for 10 years. And I don't know where this ANIF has been for 10 years, Mr. Leo. It doesn't just end there. Look at what is happening from 2020 March to 2021 March. The coronavirus funds, we saw that one of these face masks, surgical face masks that we see that is being sold on the streets of Douala and Yaoundé for 50 francs and 100 francs was being sold to us for 1,000 francs, yes. And nobody is saying so. So what should we say about the CONAC and the ANIF? This thing is something which is calculated, like I said before. It is a partisan politics, public administrative system of governance that it is what is blocking us. The separation of power, like Tah Mai said, it is another thing why we must look into the declaration of assets, which is a constitutional right. But there is another issue which I want to evoke. The issue of...
You are talking...
Yes.
No, he has to talk now. Would you expect after he talks, I give you the mic again?
You have the floor.
Huh?
You have the floor. Maybe I just wanted to make a point.
Then you land. Then
yeah, maybe I should just land.
But I will not come back to you after.
Maybe I should just land. The last thing I wanted to add was that of the fact of the controversial nature of our laws. You know, Tah Mai said we should be respecting our laws, but I want to say if we have to respect our laws to the latter, the laws are very corny, because I heard last time most people were being complaining about the fact that the president of the Senate is very old and not supposed to be there. No, it's a constitution that gives the president of the Senate the right to be there, because that constitution actually says the seat of the president of the Senate is renewable after 5 years. It doesn't give any limit to it, so he can be there as he wants. That is just an example to tell you that even our laws, if we have to follow our laws, are very cunning. So what we have to do, we have to look into this matter very critically if we need to have a solution.
Prince Joel, is it also because most of these projects are executed by those who are supposed to monitor these projects? That is, you find ministers who are executing projects. You have directors who are, yes, because under the names of others, you create a company under somebody's name. And yes,
well,
that is
MPs that are executing projects.
Yes.
Mr. Leonard, a very
you
good
are an MP who is supposed to check these things, but you also
you've asked a very good question. The issue is, when you look at the issue of corruption, it's a chain. It's not an individual. It's a whole chain. Because take a very simple example. You are an orphan, your father leaves you a piece of land, and one day with the traditional ruler tells you, okay, this land wasn't that, your father gets it, and then you run out of frustration, you go to the divisional officer, or you go to the commissaire, to the commissioner, and you discover that at one time you're frustrated, because when you go there, they tell you go back home. When you go here, they say go back this. And that is just what you've said, Mr. Leo, because a majority of our ministers, a majority of our parliamentarians, I think that as an MP has two functions. But most of our MPs are businessmen. They have a lot of contracts. Now, how do you expect these people to go to the parliament and vote a law that is going to tie them down? No, they are not going to do that, because they normally want to continue doing business. And that is why I'm still saying that, Mr. Liu, we would not have been talking about corruption if the system were free. Free at what level? If the person who heads CONAC is not appointed. We remember that one time there was one prime minister, Ewane. When he came to power, he was very vibrant. He ensured that you do not, people were at their duty posts and everything was going on well. But at one time, he himself has been caught by the same trap that he was setting. It goes to tell you that, Mr. Leo, are living in a country where at times we weep because we will just do the talking, but now changing it becomes very difficult, because the people have a whole chain. You complain that somebody was giving money to build maybe 2 classrooms in your village has not built the classrooms. Who do you complain to? You want to go to the nearest person who is maybe your mayor, he has already wet the lips of the mayor. You want to go maybe to your GO, it's the same case. You discover that you're frustrated and you have nothing to say. You just need to fold your arms and watch it continue. That is why, Mr. Ali, I want to agree with you that it is a whole system. It's a chain. You cannot shift it. Because these guys have their roots planted. They have a lot of money and they have people they are paying to. Yeah. There are people you take to the commissariat. You agree with me, Javis, that there are people you take to the commissariat or to the court that they've done something bad. The next day you see them in the quarters. Yeah. You cannot go and ask a state council why Javis that I locked up yesterday, what is he doing in the quarter? You will not ask him that. It's a whole chain, it's a network. So I just believe that the whole thing is, when we were in the university, we used to tell us qualities of a good government, transparency, accountability, all those things don't exist in Cameroon. How many people account for their asset? If they ask you what a minister has in Cameroon, nobody can tell you. If they ask you how much the head of state takes as a salary, nobody can say with certainty. So because when these things are ongoing, we just need to sit and observe.
Now, he raised an issue of Article 66, and many persons have been talking about it. And recently somebody came up to prove that it is not going to change anything without a political will. Okay, if you say ministers have not declared their assets, you know of custom officers, at least you know how much they take. Yeah. You know of other government officials. Everybody knows what they take. But but can you justify the fact that this is, everybody knows?
Mr. Leo, yeah. I believe that this is a very good one. If you go to, I believe that as journalists we know the index of these people. We know that category A is this. A teacher, for instance, Mr. Leo, a teacher, a plaque, for instance, yes. Mr. Leo, a plaque, professor de lycée enseignement général, is a category A worker. It means that he is on the same barren, even with a minister, because there's no level that is beyond category A1. Now, you will discover that most teachers, who are even government teachers, even vice principals, end up moving, if they have overbought, they buy a bike. And very few construct houses. But somebody who enters the police force, for instance, with a first school and comes out as a constable, with what they call entre-guillemets, within few months, he is already in a luxurious house. It tells you that, Mr. Liu, it is not salary, because if it were salary-wise, teachers are well paid. Why then are teachers not living the luxury that other people are living? Whereas they are up there, they have everything. Look at a custom officer, for instance. These are guys who move in luxurious cars. They have assets all over. How much is their salary? If you tell Cameroonians that, for instance, a divisional officer, when they talk about salary, may not be up to that of a category A1, who is a teacher, that is basic salary, what you take from the bank. Very few persons will know that. But now, who has what? The teacher who comes teach you and needs to trek and sees a student pass on a bike or pass in a car. Because the system has been made such that you just need to, like he said, you just need to get into politics. Because what gives money today in Cameroon is politics. If you want to make money, it's not business, it's not your knowledge, it is politics. Once you get into politics and you're opportuned to be shown the corridors of power, then you're a rich man.
You're a rich man. I'm not coming back to you. So it's a promise now. Now, Tah Mai Javis. Now, contracts are done by the same persons. Is that a glaring example that our hands are tied? How do I check what I've done?
Mr. You just brought the topic which I was discussing with someone in Boya during the weekend. There was a road, I will not call the name. I saw a road and I asked who is in charge of this road, and they said they call a certain name of an MP. And the next question I asked is, if it's poorly done, who will do the check and balance of the road? Since
because the MP is expected to ask questions to the Minister of Public Works at the Parliament why
that road is being constructed. So I said, but if it's not done now, who charge that MP? Because the MP will have to, the regional delegation of public works hand over the contract which is given by the Ministry of Public Works. Now, if it's poorly done, it therefore means that the MP go back to the Parliament and calls now the Ministry of Public Works and tell the minister that why is it that you see that it will be like a smooth screen, that they know what is happening. Now, the simple raison d'etre is that we don't have a clear-cut dichotomy in our constitution as per duties and responsibilities. And when duties and responsibilities are not well articulated, it gives people that green light, that favor to do whatever they want to do. Example, Mr. Leo, how come a mayor will take project in the municipality and runs project in the municipality, and you expect that project should be well articulated? It doesn't make sense. We see mayors running project in their municipality as contractor. That is the issue out the contract. They sign that contract, have somebody to come and sign that contract and execute that contract poorly, and nothing is being done because it is. You cannot judge yourself now, Mr. Liu. This is what happened. Like, let me use an anecdote of a child who fails an exam. When a child fails an exam, when you want to know, the first thing is when the child comes as ngum, you pass. If you want to know that child failed, the child will tell you, Papa, that picky way be the read so answer question, if fail, ngum, you pass. Papa, that other man so fail. The issue is, he wants to give you justification why he fails, so for you to know that he's not the only person that fails. That's the situation in Cameroon. It's a situation where we have contractors who takes job, who are MPs, who are executive officers, who are working as SDOs and DOs, but yet they don't execute. Who probes them? Because if there is like you said, if that Article 66, even if it's respected, there's still a problem. There's still a problem because mechanism, institution don't function the way they are supposed to function. CONAC, like, take example, the National Communication Council has power to censor. If you give those powers, like, CONAC does not have that power. CONAC is just an investigative body. It's an advisory body. Like we see with the NCC, that has, it's an independent regulatory body. No, let's no to a certain extent.
At least they can
Yeah,
tell you that
Mr. Leo, that a journalist takes an entire organization to court and wins.
No, let's come back on context.
The Peter Soka charges a media house.
Let's come back to context. No.
Excuse me, please. But for that case, please, they were won, they appealed, and the National Communications Council won the case.
So I'm talking about if these bodies, Mr. Leo, they are independent regulatory body, there will be a certain level of autonomy where they cannot do much, but they will do the little that will do. We at least create a way and start shaping corruption, fighting corruption in Cameroon. But we don't have that. We have more of advisory bodies. You cited where that CONAC gives a report at the end of the month. I had a case I had a case where someone contacted me that the one he has information to give to CONAC, and CONAC is saying that he should reveal his source, and he says he can only meet the chairman of CONAC. The secretary hang up the phone. CONAC, first of all, does not have an active website. You write to them, they don't reply. You give them call, they don't give you feedback. How do you check corruption where you don't have a hotline where somebody can report a case and that is followed? A typical example, Mr. Lo, the issue of land in Buya now. Who would they follow? Executive. The hands are tight. Because if you look at those who sold those lands are executives, and one person will sit in Yaoundé and call you, hey, ne fais plus ça, hein. That's all. It comes back to politics. The files will stay there. So at the bottom line, Mr. Joe, what we need to stamp out corruption in Cameroon, we may not stamp it our world. We need a certain level of separation of power, whereby the ministers are accountable to the Senate, the ministers are accountable to the House. For example, if we say we have CONAC officials appointed, every country, even in the United States, there's an appointment. Joe Biden appoints officials. Everybody, so we should not say that the president should not appoint. The president has that prerogative to appoint. But the problem is, when he appoints, what next? The what next is the separation of power. He appoints, he gets into the house like Nigeria. When a minister is appointed, that minister doesn't just take command button. That minister must pass through what we call vetting. And if the parliament vet and vote that you should move forward, automatically you take that responsibility. But if the parliament vote and say that no, because of credibility issue, we may not have to, you may not be credible, you don't take charge. So if we have a similar system, whereby if the president of the republic, our illustrious president, decide that okay, I want to appoint Prince now as SG of the Port of Douala, the Prince has that power to pass. Prince must pass through the Senate. The Senate scrutinizes the file of Prince and say okay, we are.
Well, given the stakes today, even if these persons were to pass through Senate and the National Assembly with an best as TPDM majority, would anything change?
There will still be, it will, Mr. Leo. First of all, it cannot change 90%, but there's a certain level of 20% that will change. Okay,
I'll stay with you. We saw the bill, the telephone bill that passed through the National Assembly, and the Senate went through the Senate, and it was after the reaction of the people that caused the presidency to revoke that bill. Why did the Senate not say something, that something was
the
wrong?
The problem with that bill is because it came from the House. Someone wrote, remember that we don't have private bills in Cameroon. A private individual cannot give a bill in Cameroon.
It came from who?
It came from within.
From who?
No. Mr. Adio, the bill came from within.
We have
the constitution.
Let me take one two messages. Hi, good evening to you all in the studio. Mr. Leo, that's the same case here in Fundong. The mayor is the one running all contracts but never finished any, and the mayor is the general manager at the Ministry of Public Works. Just a market building has been for more than 4 years today under construction but never finished. Okay. Good evening to you. You should be writing from Fundong. Good evening, Mr. Leo and the smart panelists. To me, CONAC has another name, the Ministry of Anti-Corruption. With that name, we already know how the rest of the ministries function in Cameroon. Your point from top to bottom. What do you expect? The main function of CONAC is to protect the corruptors. Henry is writing from Bali. Good evening to you. Good evening, Mr. Leo. Greetings to the panelists. The simple truth is that the system can't be free as far as respect of hierarchy in the ruling party continues. When a member in the party carries out corruption, his subordinates in the party can't report because it is a system. Okay, I don't know what system that is. They should steal. I'm not sure. The system says you people should go out there. You are baptized to steal. Pilo, writing from Kotem, that is Kumba, says, good evening. Put those bodies in place and not fight corruption, but should appear or pretend to fight them. Good evening to you. Pilo, hope Kumba is doing good this evening. Now, if CONAC and the rest have not been doing their job, they have been there for so long, they are using taxpayers' money now. If they are not delivering, if their existence actually cannot scare public servants from stealing public funds, isn't it also normal that they should be investigated, they should be questioned why things are not going the way they ought to?
Yeah, Mr. Leo, you know, when you ask such a question now, it seems like we're turning around the same place. But
yes, if they are there to check corruption and they are not working, what justifies the fact that they are being
so who should check them up? It means that another commission will be created at the presidency of the republic to check CONAC again. That is what we are saying, because now you put someone as
why can the National Assembly not raise the issue justifying why monies are being spent on CONAC? The National Assembly is there.
Yeah, this is what we have been passing our time here talking, because who are the members of the National Assembly? We have an overwhelming majority from the ruling party. That is why I stand on the fact of partisan politics, public administrative system of governance in Cameroon. That is what is the problem. Because when we talk about the National Assembly, which is the lower house of the parliament, and the upper house, which is the Senate, they have the obligation, the constitutional prerogative of checking every other organ within the country. If we are talking about separation of power, has been stated by some of these Otto Montesquieu, and we are seeing in other countries in practice. But if we have this organ that is supposed to do that, it is being crowded by an overwhelming majority of one particular political party. You don't expect that those members of parliament to check other people. That is the same thing. It comes back to the same thing that a mayor, a parliamentarian carrying out public contracts within his locality. How do you expect a parliamentarian who is carrying out a very rough public contract within his community to go and question a public work minister?
Why was that
go and publish?
Yeah,
and the public minister will come back to ask you who executed the job. So it is no, it can't. It is just a calculated something that is being put in place. And what must be done in order to cope out this situation? The first thing is we have the Cameroonians must understand one thing. Most people always say, I am not involved in politics. I'm not involved in politics. No. I want to send this message very strongly out there to every Cameroonian, especially the young people. You must be involved. Politics is not going out to carry sticks and carry guns to pursue people. No. Politics means engage yourself in decision making. Put yourself in that place where you have to take the decisions. You have to be involved in that process of decision making that concerns you. Because if today you're moving on very bad roads, if today you can buy a bag of rice for 20,000, 25,000, if you can buy a simple oil, or we cannot produce in our country, it's because you are not involved in what concerns you, that you are afraid of them calling it politics. You have to engage, because it's only when you engage and we go to the ballot box that we will be able to take some seats in the parliament and be able to make that difference, because we cannot just start from everywhere. If we have to talk about that separation of power, then we must get to that house to make a difference. And it's true that many people out there will say that it's very difficult because CPD or other people will always rig the elections. No. There's something that will always be there. We saw in the US, we're being told that election were being rigged, but today they are there. Even in the highest democracy, but we must be involved, because we are at a very critical stage that Cameroon is. We have a public debt that stands about 4,000 billion and something. We have a bilateral debt with China that stands for about 45% of our total bilateral debt. We have other things. The country is sinking. So these young people must be involved in order for us to cop out this thing, in order for us to apply the constitution. These organs that are in place doesn't have any power, because it's one and the same people that are roaming around the same circle. You don't expect me to see Mr. Tah Mai Javis as like a brother, and you expect me to still take a machete to cut his head. No, it is impossible, except I'm mad.
Just a quick,
we're turning around the same thing.
Just a quick addition.
You people like
monopolizing. I'm observing.
Sorry.
Just talk for 30
yeah,
seconds.
I just wanted to add that the issue is partnership, because if you look at how Cameroon is, it's partnership. You scratch my back, I scratch your back. So that's why you see that if a minister does something wrong, it's difficult for CONAC to prop in effectively, because CONAC to has something that would benefit the minister. It's like you scratch my back. So it's partnership. It's collabo.
To get things, to turn things around, Prince Joel, do we expect more powers to be given to ANIF, the Ministry of Supreme State Audit, and CONAC, to be able to take actions like the National Communication Council does? They call persons to answer worries that are expressed by some people. If they're found guilty, they ask the journalists to stay out of practice for 6 months. They ask media houses to close down.
Sure, Mr. Liu, I think that it would be a very good approach. We need to empower the Supreme State Audit. I think it's Mba Acha. Yeah, they need to empower them so much social, because her job is to ensure that people give accounts. That is auditing, that people give accounts, and also empower the level of CONAC, because if we are where we are today, Mr. Liu, is because these guys, the criterion under which first of all they were selected is problematic to me. Many a time we just take people without actually looking at their capabilities. Before you bring somebody, you should have asked, we need to ask certain questions. Is this person a professional in this domain? If we put this person here, take the case of NTA, of the National Communication Council. Nobody will argue that Peter Esoka is not a square peg in a square hole. He merits where he is.
You think so?
No, Peter Esoka merits.
In our profession, he's a guru.
You don't talk. Okay. Peter Esoka, he merits.
He's a guru in our
professional journalism.
I may not refuse that, but there's one thing I want to ask.
No.
So I'm saying, no, Mr. Liu, I'm saying that we need to put persons not based on certain relationships. We've had people who have challenged. That's where my problem is. We have had individuals who have challenged decisions that are coming from the Prime Minister. We have had the Prime Minister come up with a document, and the Secretary General of the Presidency, Ngongo, comes up with another document saying that I want this thing to be looked upon this way. So I think that this cacophony is first of all the problem. We should be first of all be able to address who does what and when. If we are able to say, okay, you, J.D. Masigam, you are in CONAC, this is what you're supposed to do. Madam Ba Acha Rose, this is what you're doing. And if they're able to identify their position, Look at the issue of what we are talking about now, the COVID-19. One of those, we only discover that the person that discharged a lot of money with no accounts is the former Secretary of State in the Ministry of Public Health in charge of pandemics and epidemics. Ali Mayatu quits the scene before documents now start coming up that he had this sum. I think that we should be able to have a government that is able to follow people while they are still alive, Mr. Leo. If you go to other areas, there is what they call the FBI, I think so. I think in America, yes, the Federal Bureau for Investigation. They just lie low, they investigate you, and they just present that these are your facts. This is Javis, this is what you've done for this wife, this is. Because we should not be able, when, Mr. Leo, I have a problem when we keep taking ministers and keeping them in prison. Yeah, when you've kept Mebeng, for instance, Mebengo, the money Mebengo is keeping is able to tar the Babaju road that we are crying to and fro. It's able to keep the whole northwest, southwest, and other areas, even the south.
Where is he keeping it?
Mr. Leo, we saw him burn part of the money. And that, I believe that a prison, I said something here, that a prison is a correction center. That when you are held, if they take you, they have embezzled, what the government should hold as objective should be.
Prince, earlier on you raised this issue of that people you described Peter as a square peg in a square hole. Is that where the problem is? Is it the problem of competence or the problem of powers? Because even if you are competent and you don't have powers, what do you do?
Mr. Leo, I think that it's a double-edged sword. First of all, because you may be competent but your hands are tied. And at times it is because I'm saying this thing and I'm saying it again, Mr. Leo. My co-panelists have given very good examples. If I go to Mr. J, for instance, and I ask my Lord Mayor, who has been there from 2013, and is still there in 2021, he's been there for 8 years, and I ask him, Mr. Mayor, what can you tell the people why they should vote for you again in 2025? There may be nothing actually tangible for him to show the people. But now, given that he only decides who is mayor, that's where the problem is. What I'm saying here, Mr. Leo, is that it's not actually who is at the helm. It is because we are living in a country where it is who knows who. Yeah. We had a mayor in Douala, the mayor for Douala 5, may her soul rest in peace. Even the government delegate will not talk to her. Even the governor, you will not talk to late Francois Fournier. So at times the issue is not even who is where. It is not actually the competence. It is who knows who.
The powers that you will.
It is the powers you have in your hands. And to make things more complicated for us, we have people who are doing all sort of things. A parliamentarian who is a contractor, how do you check? How does a parliamentarian go back and hold the Minister of Public on a tight corner and tell him, okay, mister, there's this? No. He himself may be afraid that, okay, if you're doing this, there is something you always say, Mr. Loda, who where? Now, you cannot, because he's always said that those who go on a negotiating table should go with clean hands.
Because equity must go with
clean hands. Now you cannot be going and you're holding a minister.
Many persons are involved in implementing the COVID project. Now, maybe it is done by MPs, so MPs may have one contract.
So MPs have contract that it says they do face
how do you hold the minister accountable?
How do you hold the minister? Mr. Leo, there is something. Before the vaccine that we have today, the Sinopharm. Yeah. Before it came, before Cameroon got the dose that we got, parliamentarians were supposed to hold the Minister of Public Health, Malauda Malashi. And I had the privilege to talk with a parliamentarian who briefed me that what they were supposed to hold the Minister of Public Health was, first, why should Cameroonians think this? And how the income they are going to spend, what is going to be the repercussion on the taxpayer, that even the parliamentarian that I am. On that same day that they were supposed to hold Malauda Malashi, he was supposed to represent the head of state somewhere, and because his secretary had died, Ali Mayatu, and he wasn't there, so it was called off. We already have the vaccine. So, Mr. Leo, when you look at Cameroon, at times we just say, we fold our arms and we observe, because it is something that you cannot actually account. We have a lot of money, because one thing that Cameroonians should be able to know, Mr. Leo, is the fact that when you see the presidency say we want this matter investigated, know that it is not something of 10 million, it's not something of 20 million, it's not 50, it is heavy money. And those whose hands are stained, we are just believing that instead of taking them each time and keeping them in prison, give us the money, let us reinvest the money into Cameroon.
Good evening to all. To solve this problem, we need to introduce leadership course from the primary till the university level. Leadership is character with very clear and positive principles from every individual. We have character issues in Cameroon. B is writing from Bomenda. Good evening to you, B. Greetings to you, Mr. Leo, and the wonderful panelists. Please, I wish to know the rules of Supreme State Control and that of CONAC. To me, I think they are to fight corruption. Why these two bodies, and yet corruption and embezzlement is at the apex in the country. Hillary is writing from Bomenda. Good evening. It's from City Chemist Bomenda. Your program is wonderful. Thank you very much to all of you watching from Bomenda this evening. Good evening. As one of your panelists rightly said, illegal embezzlers should always do under the cover of politics, especially the ruling party, but you are a criminal when you are out of this umbrella. Peter is writing from Yaoundé. Good evening, Mr. Liu. A man once told me that if I join the ruling party, I will get employment irrespective of my qualification. Bless is writing from Bomenda. Good evening, Mr. Liu. All government ministers, all directors, all heads of services, in a nutshell, all civil servants in Cameroon are all CPDM disciples, so you can't send a thief to catch a thief. Mr. Alfred is writing from Yaoundé. CONAC, ANIF, CONSUPE are groups of corrupt officials. Good evening to all the members of the panel. Very excellent topic. Corruption is on a high rate simply because you can't take very seasoned corrupt officials to fight corruption. Good evening, Liu, to all your panelists. People are not scared of CONAC and the rest of other institutions because there is no recovery plan whenever somebody is caught or detained for embezzlement. This does. People prefer to steal and keep for the family and go to prison. Tumi Gilbert, also writing from Yaoundé. Greetings. No privacy should exist in... Okay. No. This has nothing to do with what we are discussing now. Now, what should happen? We find now the presidency that is creating a task force to look into COVID funds. Is it also a message to tell CONIC, CONSUPE, and the rest that you are not doing your job?
It's a strong message, and equally it comes to confirm the fact that in Cameroon we are only reactive than being proactive, because excuse me, if you look at the system very well, CONAC had that power to give their report yearly, but this is what happened. Let's think clearly. I earlier said, let me do it clearly from a mathematical perspective. COVID-19 was reported in Cameroon in March 23rd, 2020. In April, I think during that period, Cameroon government, through the Prime Minister, issued a lockdown. Bags of rice and money, donations came in from left and right, financial donations. Companies made financial donations. Company gave issues. We had a kind of an operation coup de coeur, where from bigger companies and equally multinational companies and allies and nations gave budget that, okay, take and fight COVID-19 since you will be engaging in a lockdown and a shutdown. Mr. Liu, between April, May, June, July, August, September, October, November, December, situation of COVID-19 in Cameroon went worst. December, January, February, at least the CONAC report should have come out, because as let's can say, okay, March, the report should have come out. Is a year. CONAC should have given the president of the republic, hey, dear president, this is what we are experiencing. Maybe you prompt into you take an action. But the fact that they stood quiet is a message the president is telling CONAC that, hey, you are irrelevant, please sit up. Like you rightly asked that, why is it that the parliament is sitting and folding its arms while we waste taxpayers' money on the behest of paying members of CONAC that they are doing their job? The simple answer to that question is collaboration. Like in music, there's what we call collabo. you must collaborate. Corruption is a collaborative effort. You cannot stand as an island. So for me to go free, I must stay in your hand. I give you cockroach in your cupboard so that you cannot hold me. So the simple where we are today in Cameroon, Mr. Leo, it takes 5 different steps to solve it. 1, competent people should be put at their individual position. It will not completely solve the problem, but at least it will give the person an avant-garde as to changing, making policies within that institution. The second one is we should engage in separation of power. Separation of power simply means that whoever is appointed, the legislative should not have powers as compared to the judiciary. The judiciary should not have power more than. So if we have this separation of power to a certain level, we reduce another 10%. So we are talking about 20%. The other issue, how we can reduce this, is that civil society organizations should not just limit themselves to fighting right and responsibility of people not being able to talk or being arrested, but they need to educate the public as of what they need to do when they realize that funds have been given to their localities and are not being made use of. They need to educate the public as to their role and responsibility. How many people in Womb, how many people in Messager, how many people in Kikaikilaki, how many people in Far North region, in those areas, know the function of their MPs, know the amount that is being given for the mayor, know the project that the council is carrying out? We need civil society organizations to educate the public on issues. Now, if they educate the public on these issues, I believe that the public at one point in time can stand in and point fingers and say, hey, we need this to be done. Look at what happened when we had electricity problem in Buea. I always like to use that as an example. When we had electricity problem in Buea, the women in Buea town stood up and went to the DIO's office and tell Mr. Dio that we have problem with electricity, and they marched to the DIO, and behold, it did not take long, that issue was addressed. Now, if this civil society preach to the people, it will reduce another 5%. We are talking about 25% reduction of this. Somebody talked about the fact that good governance, that we should train our leaders about good governance. Mr. Leo, from primary school we have civics and ethics. We come to civics, we have civics and citizenship. You come to Form 1 to Form 5, we have civics and ethics and we have religion. You come to university, we still have civics and ethics and we have religion.
That is for education. But I think that as a child, your parents take you to church.
Yeah. In the churches are there are preaching to the people.
From the
Sunday school, you have Sunday school. The churches are there that preach to the people. If you are not a Christian, you are Muslim. The mosque is there. If you are not a Muslim, you have television station like Mamiza Prime teaching you on good governance on daily basis. What education do they need? It's simply an issue of bad faith. It's an issue of bad faith.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, Mr. Leo, that question you asked Mr. Tah Mai is a very interesting question, and I want to beg your pardon to take a different dimension from what he took. Why? Because when I look at the presidency itself, it's not like the presidency is any strong message because it's a very huge sum amount of money. No. When you look at the circumstances surrounding the presidency sending message to the CONSUPE and other institutions before creating a special task force, you realize it's pressure from the international community. It is not the first time. It is the second time, because the country went ahead asking for the IMF to give another loan, which was the third time, because IMF asked them, the first loan we gave you, what did you do with it? They went and they tried to explain. They asked them to come forth to show what they have done with the first one, and they were not able, but they said they wanted to do something, and the virus is, the rate of spread is increasing. So they gave them the second one to help and boost businesses. That one we did not see, because we're talking about 300 and something billion that Cameroon has already borrowed within COVID. Now, if to say the presidency is sending a strong message, I want to ask, what about the 3,000+ billion for CAN? What message the presidency? Because it is the same presidency that is appointing the ministers, appointing everybody within the country. For me, it is some sort of cook something, and it's not a way to send any message. It is just, look, we are living in a state where the government is turning around the same thing, and some individuals are embezzling and enriching themselves. I don't know where they want to take that money to. Of course, we saw some of them, we burned the money, and others have taken them abroad and they're doing other things. But this is total greed, and that is why I still call on every young Cameroonian and Cameroonians to, as a general, to take on the relay battle, to take on the relay stick, because we have to move up. We must go to the polls when the time comes. We must know what concerns us in order to act, because this presidency is not sending any message to us. The presidency is not telling us that we are so strong in fighting corruption. No, because if they were strong in fighting corruption, I remember last week one of the headlines of a certain newspaper carried Olembe Kel Marchans. Donc you understand the fact that
Kel on.
Yeah, Kel on to yeah. Donc it's a way to tell you that these people, we are talking about CAN that was we were supposed to host the CAN a long time ago, and we didn't host it, and we spent 3,000 plus billion, and the stadiums are still there like they were.
The head of state himself has not even been to a stadium beside his house.
We are adding more money to it. The presidency has not said anything because those people are in front of the contracts are those people who are in the presidency. So who will also control those people who are in the presidency? We come to that level. Let's look at it. If they did not go to ask for a debt loan, we won't have been at this pressure. And look at where the pressure has led us to. Now we are asking people to be vaccinated. I didn't say vaccination is a bad thing, but the circumstances surrounding the vaccination and the vaccine itself, it is something which we must post in. And this is when we still come back to the parliamentarians and the senators, the members of the National Assembly and the senators. What are they doing? Because they're supposed to ask more questions, but they aren't doing that because they are all corrupt right up to the level of the presidency. And let me tell you, it is not like all of them are corrupt. No, it is the fact that the system has engulfed even young people who are very intelligent in the corruption, because we have a tendency where if you are in the government and no matter how bright you are, no matter the knowledge you have, and the goodwill and the good faith that you have to implement what you're supposed to do, if you don't embezzle, I'll bet you, ask most of them out, I've met them, they will kick you out of the government. Because if you don't embezzle, I knew of a certain manager who told whom we visited on a certain day with my brother Mr. Leonard Fabrice, and he told us that he made at a particular time of the year, he had made his balance sheet, and there was some money that was left over that he was supposed to send. And when he wrote to his hierarchy, the hierarchy asked that they wrote him a quarrel letter. It's a way to tell him that, so you want to show us that you are more of a just person than all of us. So it is that system. Yes. So what you want to tell me that the money, so we are corrupt and you're not corrupt. So this is a system itself right from the presidency, and they have to understand that what we are saying is not because we want to destabilize the country. It's because the construction of Cameroon remains in the hands of each and every Cameroonian, and not only them. They don't love Cameroon more than what every other Cameroonian love the country, but they have to understand that we have generations that are coming back. Look what is happening. They are gradually selling the whole of Cameroon. China stands as where we stand today. China has part of the Cameroon that we have sold because of what? Because of corruption. So they must look into that.
How do we make CONAC and other institutions scary for people not to be able to play? Yeah, it has to happen now. Yes.
Yeah, Mr. Liu, to make CONAC scary, first of all, is let us sell the goat and leave the rope. We should not hold the rope. What I'm saying here is that let CONAC be an independent organization.
Regulatory.
Let CONAC be there like the National Communication Council that is there to observe. When you're not going, they tell you, Tah Mai Javis, you're doing House of Commons, the ethics of the profession you're going. This is what you should do. That's what they'll call you, they tell you. And so for them to be scary, Mr. Liu, is let the executive, like Javis has been saying it repeatedly, let the executive not have power on it. If you've given them the power, let CONAC be able to check even the presidency. Let CONAC be able to check the prime minister. Let CONAC be able to check its own self. Because
its members.
Its own members, that's what I'm talking about itself. Let CONAC be able to check itself. Because if CONAC is there to take care of, because one individual is no longer being the biais that he used to be, CONAC now puts an eye on him and say, okay, Javis, you've embezzled 200. Because that's some of, when you look at times, Mr. Leo, the way some of these regulatory organs function, at times we have the impression that they are settling scores.
Yeah.
That's what we feel. Because once you used to sing praises and at one time you're no longer singing praises, they tell you come. We only knew that somebody like Marafa, that Marafa used to take huge sums or was not too honest only when he declared that he would run for presidential elections. It means that CONAC is like there to settle scores. CONAC will only be scaring if CONAC comes up to work independently.
Okay, I remember we once discussed this topic in Boya, and someone like Atia Tilaru said that it was high time to take most of these officials before the stadium and been flogged in front of the families. Maybe
someone even said behead. I don't support
no.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't.
Yes, but I think Atia said that there is need to organize a monthly ceremony where some of these guys are brought in.
Mr. Liu, look at Mr. Liu. I think that I want to tie what he said. Look at all the German governors. Jesko von Pottkammer was the governor that nobody liked. Yet he is the governor that achieved a lot under the German regime because he was staying. As you go astray, it brings you even in front of your family members and trash you.
Okay. No. Cameroon is a state of law.
But that's part of law.
Good evening, Mr. Good evening, Mr. Leo and panelists. I think corruption can't be eradicated in Cameroon if heads of departments can't publish the expenses of the department. Secondly, all leaders, including the president, should be audited periodically to ensure that public funds are not misappropriated or embezzled. Trust is good, but control is best. Poksan, writing from Germany. Thank you, Poksan, always watching the program. Good evening, panelists. If you may not know, the president is coming in now because maybe his own percentage that was to enter his account didn't, and he is understanding now that the money was too much. Mr. Marcel, writing from Romania. Do you think the president actually needs that money? I'm not sure. Yes. All good evening, Mr. Liu, and your men in the studio. Mr. Chris in Douala. Corruption can never disappear in this country because those in power are being taught to enjoy bribery and corruption. If the country can fight for it, let the head of state should see into that. One person should endeavor to occupy only one position because most of them occupy 2 or more positions. All commissions created in this country is mostly for camouflaging citizens, and all of them are toothless bulldogs. Good evening to you. Last week, hi Mr. Liu, we don't have your channel in Limbe. Hope all is well. Last week too, we did not have it for 2 days. All is well. If you don't have it in Limbe, check with your cable distributor. Maybe there is a technical issue with at this level. Greetings to all of you in the studio. Mikong Wilson Mbangse, writing from Mokolo in the far north region of the Republic of Cameroon. Good evening to you too, my brother. You says, I like what I hear here on my media prime. Thank you. You're writing from Nigeria. Good evening to you, my brother. Now we are going to take a listen to what the contribution of Andre Nateme Bakwe was supposed to be here with us this evening. Fortunately, he could not make it, but he felt that he should contribute to our discussions. Let's take a listen to what he has to say.
Good morning to all Cameroonians. What I want to say first is that the government doesn't have goodwill for its people. And if you start way back from where the genesis of the decentralization, the regional council, the consulators and all of that, that all had its origin from the Grand National Dialogue. And the Grand National Dialogue was not organized to absolutely bring peace to the common people who make up the population of those 2 regions. That was to appease a few elites and handful of chiefs that have sold out their dignity and integrity of the as being custodians of the embodiment of the people's identity and culture, who have now been reduced to the level of auxiliaries and clerks to the political system by the Western civilization called democracy. And these are the things that we are saying that is not going to help our country if we continue to run away from the root core of the problem. Now, what am I saying? This is just to tell you how rich the country is and why the masses are in poverty and why the masses are poor, why the people live in abject poverty and why we have conflict, because as systems which are not built to uplift the spirit of its people and to reflect the aspiration of their own people. These are leaders who don't communicate with their citizens. These are leaders who are not voted by the genuineness of the people's will and desire for change. These are leaders that have been designed to rip the people away from their dignity and their destiny. So this payment for the regional councillors and consulators, this is just a waste of money.
Andre Nateme Bakwe there, seemingly he did not get the topic very well, and that contribution does not tie with what we are discussing this evening. We are going to take a short break. When we come back, we discuss our second topic for tonight. Welcome back. You're watching My Media Prime, and it's Prime R. We are looking at the second topic for tonight, which has to do with the sustained unemployment rate in Cameroon, especially amongst the youth. We are asking whether it is the Matricule syndrome that is a core cause for this sustained, because in as much as the government is doing everything to curb unemployment, but there is something seemingly that is being neglected, which could be accountable for the high rate of unemployment. Almost everybody wants to work with the Matricule syndrome. When you were growing, did you hear many persons, almost everybody talking about all that matters to me is to have a Matricule civil service?
Not actually, Mr. Leo. To be honest, it is a disturbing thing for what is happening in Cameroon today. Especially, I'm a young man. All of us here, especially my brother and brothers, we're very young people, and we are faced with this on a daily basis, like every other young Cameroonian who is out there. And I think we're representing their voices, because this is something which is very disturbing, I want to say. And what actually promotes this? Why is it that most of the young people are unemployed? Well, the first thing is wrong orientation. That's what I want to put it. Why do I say wrong orientation? It is because I want to say the educational system wrongly orientated us, because at the time when we were growing up, the syndrome of Matricule was not as alarming as today. When I was growing up, what I knew was that I want to grow up, I want to be a pilot. That is what I had as an intention. I want to be a pilot. Yeah, I didn't know about I want to go to ANIF.
This is strange, because everybody around me talked about I want to secure a Matricule number.
Yeah, I want to say from where I grew up. When I was growing up, the ambition I had, I wanted to be a pilot. That is what I said to myself. I was growing up. But now, at a particular level, when I got to the Form 1 in the secondary school, Form 2 in the secondary school, and right up to opposite, what happened? What we were studying, the orientations we had.
You thought you'd be a pilot when you were in primary school?
Why I was in it's an ambition I had, and hoping that as moving forward, I will be orientated and I will follow that particular line. Now, why growing up, the educational system is not as bad as other people would think, but its orientation with the young people was not the best. How did I say it's not the best? It's because we have an educational system where it puts the young people in a particular lane. We understand that if you study history, geography, and maybe literature, you're going to be this and that and that. But forcefully, that is not what it's supposed to be, because we understand that most of the educational curriculum that is being put in place does not really orientate the young people on a particular type of job which is supposed to fit and what is the contemporary society are facing. You go to other part of the world and other African countries, you realize that they are more orientated towards what? Entrepreneurship. They are more orientated towards building of businesses and others. But when you come to our country, especially in Cameroon, you realize that everybody today want to go into the civil services, in the civil service. But why do people actually want to go into the civil service? It is because another issue is because of the taxation system. How does the taxation system actually favor people going into the civil service? Most of the young people who even think that they can open up a business and to run and be an entrepreneur, to see how they can start a business and go up. When you want to start a small business, the next thing you see is the taxation officers in front of your place. You don't first of all have the market that you have to sell. The commodities are not first of all there in a particular stage, but you already see these people coming to tax you. Not only that, you want to import goods in the country. Look at Nigeria. Nigeria is booming because of their custom system. Like you go to Benin, their custom system. You go to other countries, but in Cameroon, we have a government which is surviving on what? On taxation, which therefore means they are draining from the people. And if you're surviving from taxation, you realize you are scaring businesses, the growth of business. And when you scare the growth of businesses, you realize that young people become redundant, because there are two sectors. You have the private sector and the public sector. So it's either you are in the private sector or you're in the public sector, and that which is more favorable for young people or for other countries who are developing, it is the private sector.
You're not just justifying why we are where we are, because I see a new wave of young people who are now preaching the gospel that we can make it. There are lots and lots of opportunities, even in difficulties. We can make it big. What you are saying is almost what has place young people to be where
yeah,
they
no,
are.
that is where I am coming to the part.
Yeah, because
of the
you only think,
no.
you only see opportunities only in the government.
No.
Everything.
It's not only in the government. There are opportunities out there. The problem is, does the government give an atmosphere which is conducive enough for the young people to take the opportunity? That is it, and that's why I talked about the various mechanisms that were being put, the taxation, the customs system.
Tah Mai Javis is not doing what he's doing because of the government. I'm sure I'm not doing what I'm doing.
Of course, I am not doing what I'm doing.
You too, are not doing.
Yeah, so why not give hope to the young people who are watching us that they can excel? Because what you're saying is almost everything is bleak.
Mr. Leo, do you want me to tell a young man who was working in the CDC plantation that he can still excel? Well, we know very well what is happening. They have the place. The government had a place to solve the Anglophone crisis. We should have left.
Are you working with the government?
I'm not working with the
government. Are you excelling?
I'm doing.
Okay. Yes.
Mr. Leo, it is not the same thing.
No.
It is not. The young people have that opportunity and that latitude out there.
You should be able to inspire.
It is good. It's good to inspire them, but before inspiring them, tell them what is happening and show them the roadmap where they will go aside from that.
It's as if you are blocking the road. It's as if
no, I am not. There is a reality. You have not understood. That is it. Yeah, but you must first of all expose it to them. You must bring out the reason why they are where they are before you show them the way forward.
You are showing them the bleak.
Well, I think the issue lies on three perspectives. There's one person I like quoting, especially when I saw the topic on sustaining youth employment and Matricule syndrome. I remember Father George Kezenjingo, because there's one thing he always likes saying, that the Matricule system is killing us, that we have become matriculated in such a way that we feel entitled. The right word is entitlement syndrome, where we believe that somebody must give us something. It is our right. That is the government that must give us. That's what we call entitlement syndrome. No, that entitlement syndrome, that is, Mr. Leo, if you go to America, you have all your family members, your cousins feel like you have that right, you must be sending them money. That entitlement. Now, that entitlement syndrome makes them not to see other opportunities that lies beneath their feet. That's the entitlement syndrome. I think the issue of Matricule, the Matricule syndrome, is caused by the orientation that we have when we are in school, when we are with our parents, when we are with our peers. People feel like instead of giving us hope, they give us what we see as problem. Mr. Leo, yes, Cameroon has problems. Yes, the policy governing the economic sector of Cameroon is not the best. Yes, we have issues with the legal system of Cameroon. Yes, we have Anglophone crisis. But yes, people are still surviving. And yes, people can survive if they look at other avenues.
Of course.
Every opportunity. In China, they say a crisis is an opportunity for excel. And now this is it, Mr. Leo. If you look at it very well, there's another positive side of Cameroon that people don't talk about. Entrepreneurs don't talk about it because they don't want people to see. The laws of Cameroon are Cameroon is very flexible with laws in terms of opening up business, social businesses. Let me land. Mr. Leo, we don't have Mr. Leo, we are moving towards digitalization, not to. And let me ask him talking then no. How do we have laws of digital economy in Cameroon?
Of course.
If we have laws, what does the law state? For example, I can open up an online news platform. I have run an advert on my platform. Do I pay tax to Cameroon government? Do you know how many youths in Cameroon? No. Do you know how many youths in Cameroon don't know that they can make money online as they are doing in Nigeria? Look at Angel Comedy. Look at all those people who are doing active, who are prominent online. Once you have at least 10,000 likes on Facebook, you have the opportunity for online marketing and advert. Do you pay tax to use that system? No, you don't. Now there are small avenues where we can look at it. We can change orientation. We can change the orientation in how we do things. Mr. Leo, we used to have domestic science in primary school. What if this domestic science continue from primary, secondary, and university? What if in all schools we have a section where, like Lycée Bilingue, they can just recruit 3 permanent tailors? If a child wants to learn tailoring, it's for free. That child goes there and spends the entire domestic science there. By the time that child leaves from 5, that child can become a tailor and start doing things. Now, if we can, let's now look at way in which system can be upgraded and to change this system. In the bottom line, what I see problem with the entitlement syndrome, Mr. Leo, is that we feel like if the government doesn't give us job, we'll not have job. I am not recruited by the government. Yeah. And there are things I do that I get money from. Exception. No, I am one of many exceptions. You are not recruited by the government. Yeah. Let's be clear. We have a lot of people who are not recruited by the government. There's an opportunity. There are opportunities where people can harness on. The issue is we have blocked our mind to look at the government sector that we must write applications to have jobs. Whether you like it or not, this guy that opened, how do you call it, that always come to this program, Take Care Samuel. All of his crew members are not recruited by the government. But they are teaching people as to how to get money and hands-on projects that you can. Mr. Lo, let me shock you. 40% of Cameroon land, agriculture, is being owned by China. Now, as we speak.
Yeah.
In my village, we have land. How many youth engaged in those agriculture? Let me shock you again. No, let me shock you again. Let me shock you again. Let me give you another shocking example.
Go ahead.
Most of us prefer to go and study things that we see others doing, like the normal geography and the rest. How many of us choose entrepreneurship as a core value to study? Very few. Very few people feel like entrepreneurship is not an issue.
Okay,
and very few people look
Tah Mai
at
Javis, yes.
Mr. Leo.
No.
The thing is, you didn't allow me to learn, so that is why Tama had to take me from the level
you spoke for how many minutes now, bro?
I'm observing you.
You didn't allow me to
keep
learn.
observing.
Go ahead.
You speak for 10 minutes and you say I did not allow you learn.
The problem is Tama did not understand.
No,
we have to set something.
We have 3 persons here now. What is happening? When he's talking, either Tah wants to interject or you. And now, Prince Joel. Yes, where is it that we were not well orientated? Like he said, we were not giving a good orientation in the beginning to see opportunities out there, because look at the clothing industry. It's a very vast opportunity that is not exploited, and many persons don't know. I know of a guy who recently opened a fashion line out here in Bodangosadi, and to get a dress there you pay 80,000 from him, and people are queuing up. We have restaurants that are mushrooming almost everywhere, and people are making it. Was it, I don't know whether it is a wine man or who actually blindfolded our eyes to these opportunities?
Mr. Leo, there are 2 things that are involved here. The first thing is the orientation we get in school, and the second thing is back at home with our parents. My grandma, when I had my advanced level, my grandma told me, I told her that at the school I want to go to school again. She told me, no, you're going to teach. This is because a majority of those who had advanced level were teaching in the secondary school.
And they were looked upon as lots in
so my grandma was like, she told me in the dialect, which school do you want to go to again? I felt that once you finish with the advanced, now, so that's what I'm talking about, home, because our parents, Mr. Liu, a majority of those who go to school up to master's, PhD, are those, to be honest, are not those who come from poor homes. Because our parents, a majority of those who send us to school were just like, once you get, their target is you get your advanced level and you go to teacher's training. They want a shortcut.
Or you go to ENS.
Or you go to ENS. I'm talking about home. That is home now. Now, because parents felt that once you go and you enter either ENS or teacher's training, or you do any other competitive exam, you're going to assist them sponsor your younger ones. That's the first aspect. Now, at the level of orientation in school, Mr. Liu, I had most of my teachers that I respect a lot. They'll tell you, always think big. Think big, that what? They'll tell you, keep going to school. I have one of my lecturer, one of my literature teachers, Madame Zimairam, that I respect till today. She told us, Prince, and that's what Javis was saying. If you do not come, if you're going to a state university, do not read a subject. It is preferable you go to a private university. But if your family doesn't have money, they can go to a private university, because there are universities where people pay 1 million, Mr. Liu. There are universities where people pay 800,000 francs. Even where you are in Catholic University, you pay huge money. But in the University of Boya, University of Douala, it's 50,000 francs. Now, Mr. Liu, so it's an issue of orientation. But the general idea that we have in Cameroon is the Matricule syndrome that you brought. When you go to my small community where I come from, a young guy who did his teacher's training in college and was integrated, when he comes to sit with people in the Shahas, what he tells them is, I don't work on Conway, even if I know water, it germinate.
Every morning,
Ajogo take him. Now he tells this in a shower house, and everybody around him is like, "Grandfather, what did you do?" And the next thing he tells them is, "I went to teachers training and now one thing he will not tell them is that this teachers training, I don't have direct recruitment. I need to come sit for so many years, and at times for a lifetime."
Yeah.
Because there are those who went to teachers training and never were recruited. So, Mr. Leo, it is an issue of education. A majority of those who have money today, people who have money. I was speaking with a friend who is a parliamentarian, and he told me, "Prince, do you think I can send any of my children to ENS? That's school for poor people." But in our small communities where we come from, once
in those days, yeah.
Even today, Mr. Leo, even no, not even those days, even till today. I'm not talking about money, but even today.
That's capital to start a business.
To start a very good business.
When you start that business, for how long will that business survive? That is another question.
Mr. Kotem, Mr. Prince Kotem, I think that Mr. Kotem,
we are on an island,
Mr. Prince.
But I mean that's Kotem.
I think that what I want to say is, some of us did not have this opportunity when we're growing up. We used to feel that people pass behind the TV to speak. We did not know that TV was like this. So yes, that's how we're growing up. Yeah. I grew up in Hoya where we had one lady who had a TV, and we needed to go wash her things to come and watch TV after school. And you were supposed to bathe like 4 times a day because you needed to show your legs to show that they are clean. I'm saying that we have this, yes, if we have this opportunity, is for us to tell Cameroonians that it is not an issue of matricule. I know people who are teachers who envy me because I'm a journalist. But now, when you go back to these communities, we should be able, because Mr. Leo, is an issue of education. You know that in every school there is an office called the Office of Guidance Counseling.
Yeah.
But when you go to some of our remote areas, those offices do not exist. And at times, even when these persons come because of limited staff, the principal turns them, they become teachers. And I think that today we should be able to tell Cameroonians that the issue of matricule, go and tell one Magida who left Chad and has a small cafeteria that there is a concours that has come out, tell you, what is he doing with it? He doesn't need that thing. Tell one guy who left maybe my small camp and comes to Douala and is walking his bike. That guy is able to keep no less than 10,000 francs a day. If he puts that thing at 30, this is much money. It's 300,000 francs, Mr. Leo. It means that this guy should be able to pay my friend Kotem and even pay Prince too. So we should be able to say that it is very true that when you are able to enter the public service, you have guaranteed something that is lifetime, which is very true. Because once you're a civil servant for life. But today, we should be able to orientate Cameroonians that it is not only an aspect of the matricule number. I know Mr. Kum is sitting beside me, who is flourishing, who is doing well. Kum did not write any ENS. He did not go to teachers training. Neither did he go to ENAM.
Of course.
Okay? But the issue we have in Cameroon is out of misinformation. Because the problem here is when somebody goes to ENS. At one time when I went back to my village, I had a lot of problems with my brothers. Because I was telling them, you're telling them this, but you're not telling them the truth. You're not telling them that since you enter with advanced level in ENS, you are a category A2 worker. You're not A1. And they're supposed to send you, if they send you maybe from ENS, they send you maybe to Marwa, you need to work with the small salary you have. You need to pay house. You need to feed yourself. Don't keep convincing people that as I've entered, I'm into ENS tomorrow, I'll be a principal. No, it's not. It's an issue of orientation.
Okay, no. We are talking about orientation. Is it not also because our Cameroonian community has given so much power as value to these persons? We see how people revere the DOs, the police officer, yes, yes, people in the public service, yes, and then you have somebody who is creating so much wealth, like Jeffobi, who is in Boya, who is recruiting hundreds of people. We have somebody like my boss, Mr. Tabi Bryant, who is recruiting hundreds of Cameroonians, and yes, and others.
Yeah.
But
And Mr. Leo, there are those who will be shocked that you're calling a boss. There are those who tell me that when I talk with it, Mr. Leo is the owner of that TV station. That's what so many of them know. A majority of my friends, that's what they know.
No.
Yes,
It is a very this is a very serious investment, very huge, bigger than what many persons would think. It where would I get money to run 7 TV channels, recruiting more than
hundreds of people?
Yes, just for the TV, more than 50 persons working under here, and
within the different regions.
So it's a very huge investment.
Yeah, Mr. Leo, like Prince was saying, I don't refuse the fact it is a very nice thing to give courage, encourage Cameroonians, and tell them the other part which they don't understand. But the question we have here is sustain. Why the Matricule syndrome? That is the problem. So we have to look at why people want to rush to the Matricule.
Yeah, but he advanced the point now. Are you refuting what he's saying?
I'm not totally refuting what he's saying, but I have some controversy in what he said, because he makes it look so light and make more of the young people out there feel like they are too lazy. It is true we have some set of young people who are really lazy out there, but I want to tell you, majority of them out there, they are not as lazy as Prince will want to put it, or they are not following that. One of the things that actually push them is the aspect of corruption. Corruption has eaten into the marrows of the country in such a way that it affects even the young people. Imagine a young man who believes because he sees his friend that has bribed and entered the NAM and is having 10 million, or can embezzle 10 million and nothing happens to him. Of course, he wants to have a Matricule. You know, you look at another young man who is working in the private sector, where how much do they pay them? Because Prince was saying something here that you have a Magida who will employ you, and rather he will not want to write a competitive exam rather. Ask how much with that Magida period. That is the problem. That's why a young man would prefer that, which is not necessarily the best thing to do, because you can try and you move forward. But a young man would prefer that, okay, I pick my motorbike today and ride, because at the end of the day I can have my 5,000, 10,000, and if we put it together at the end of 30 days, if it was 10,000, I'm 300,000, rather than I'm going to work for somebody who pay me 30,000 francs or 25,000 francs or 40,000 francs per month. Or I go and get a Matricule where if I am not able to someone to pay me 40,000, at least I have a government who will pay me at least 80,000, 70,000 or 90,000, and not only the pay is the problem, but I have an opportunity to embezzle, and I live a life which will not want to disturb any other person, because we are living in a very tight economy. And coming back to what Tah Mai was saying, making it understand, young people to understand that we have very conducive environment to invest, and why are young people not going there? No, Tah Mai, I want to say that is the sector which I am also involved in.
He did not say it was conducive. He says difficulties or problems are opportunities.
Yes, difficulties and problems, opportunity. But we should not say because we have that opportunity today to be somewhere. But I'll bet you there are millions of Cameroonians today who dropped application where you dropped yours, and they never know. They cannot understand where the application went to. Not because they are not. They are not qualified.
At the end of the day, what are you saying?
What I'm saying is that we have the private sector, which is supposed to bring and encourage the young people to take entrepreneurship, to not to look at the Matricule system, is not breeding, because the public system is making the private system not to breed, and therefore leaving more of young people redundant. Imagine a situation where you believe, because you have you think that you leave school and you believe that you can open a business. Opening a business in Cameroon is not the same thing like opening a business in Nigeria, because you will still tell me there is a designer somewhere who had a designer shop and who is doing designing and is succeeding. Yes, he can do that, but imagine we have 10 designers who are to do that. We don't have that population that to consume what they are doing. Yes.
There is an African market. We can produce and export. And I'll tell you that tomorrow I'll be receiving Mr. Tekeye.
Yeah.
When they are here, at least 100 persons call and thank that their eyes have been opened to opportunities that before now they never knew.
Yeah.
I would really love you to be part of the program, and then you get
Mr.
Mr. Teke, there is something I discovered recently that I didn't know. Even the Mr. Teke recently, this Saturday, brought in the Nigerian actor Mike Godson, whom I felt that is just it's just an actor, but he's an entrepreneur. Yeah. That's one aspect that, because I think that Mr. Leo, what I am saying. I don't know from which angle he's saying, and he's entitled to his opinion. What I'm saying is, I'm looking at my community where I'm coming from. I'm telling you that the community where I come from, once as you come back as a police officer who has entered the police corps with the first school, my mom will be able to, I mean that the people in that community are ready to sell even the entire property they've had that you come back with. It's just an issue of the prestige. They will not want to know whether it takes what to enter there. Because what I think is an issue of the orientation. That's the major issue.
Look, Prince, you didn't allow me to finish. Look.
No, you talk for 10 minutes and you say you don't allow you to end. Okay, end now.
Mr. Leo,
Yes.
I talked about orientation, right? But I didn't stop there. I went forth to present the fact why these other people are not into that stage. And that is why I had to bring all these other things that I did explain. But I did not say that they don't have other opportunities out there. But I'm just saying that these young people are not bringing, because you know what to tell me, this more than 3 million of young people who are on bikes, they are not looking for opportunities. It's not like that. But
Mr. Kotem, okay, Mr. Kotem. Now, when I read what you are saying, all you present is that things are tough. How do you inspire young people?
That is why I was saying that young people have to understand that despite the fact that things are tough, okay, they need to try to survive at this situation. Why they have to engage themselves in things that will make the situation change? And what are those things that they have to engage themselves? It is engage themselves in decision-making situations. That is what they have to do. If you call politics mean engage yourself in decision making, if that is politics, then I ask them to go into politics.
Decision making is ministers and MPs and
no, you vote those people. And so, because most of them shy away from going to the polling stations, getting to the polling to the ballot boxes, most of them feel that they can never bring any change. That is why we are where we are today.
Mr. Kotem,
yes, sir.
Mr. Kotem, we are talking about creating job opportunities for young people.
Yes.
And you think that they can create job opportunities by voting one person who will enrich himself?
No, not one. That is where we are missing it. Who is that one person? The person is the one who goes and makes the bad laws that is making the young people to not to survive. Okay. If they cannot get businesses today, it's because of the bad laws.
Tah Mai Javis, before you come in, let's listen to Andrew Natemibako contribute to this topic.
You talk about a lot of opportunities in Cameroon. Those opportunities are good and they are there, they're littered all over. And that is why Trump said, my friends come to Africa and when they return back, they become billionaires. We have seen Chinese people, prisoners, who left China with no slippers even to put on, came to Cameroon within no short period with the backing of their government. Within less than a year, they began being a millionaire. You find other nationals from different parts of the Western country, they come to Africa, before you know they have all become millionaires. What is the problem that Cameroonians cannot take those positions of becoming what these people are becoming in their own country is because their governments have refused to stand behind them. I'll give you a very good example. Take what Libya did when Gaddafi was still alive. He made sure that every Libyan who was interested in agriculture, he gave him free land, he gave him loan, he gave him machineries to enable him do the farming correctly. If you are a student going to school, he made sure that you have free education, access to free education. He made sure that owning a house in Libya was a basic necessity for all Libyans. What am I simply trying to say is the same example we saw in Rwanda, in Tanzania, government standing giantly behind their citizens. But what do we find today in Cameroon? We find Cameroonians that have been detached, children with no parents, adopted children in the hands of very white leaders and gruesome, brutal leaders that are ready to kill their citizens just to stay up. So how do you expect them to seize these opportunities when they have no one behind to support them? A child can walk when someone helps the child to walk. When the child knows and learns how to walk, the child will need no help. We don't need and we don't have those helpers where we travel abroad. We don't have our government standing behind us. Even in the time of pandemic, our government cannot fly its citizens back to its own country. We saw in different parts of the world national citizens by French citizens, American citizens, Wherever you are, the plane will come and set you, even though there was flight embargo. They make sure that their citizens could return back home. Ours was frustrated in China. Chinese threw them out of their homes while they were living big as kings in Cameroon. And yet our leaders did nothing. So this is a thing I'm saying, that the leaders that we have in place are not genuinely voted by the people of goodwill and the people who make the population and the people who can build this nation. The leaders we have are those that have been contracted by few men who felt that they discovered a country called Cameroon and gave it to the hands of these few protectorates who have now become contractors of a nation working for the interests of other people. If we don't change this system, we are not going anywhere.
We don't change the system, we are going nowhere, according to Andrew Natemi Bako. Greetings, Mr. Leo. I think another organization should be created to monitor CONAC. Fabian is writing from Douala. Good evening to you, Fabian. Good evening, Mr. Leo. Workers are not scared because CONAC itself is a corrupt body, and they know that they will obviously bribe them when they come around for control. Ajara is writing from Bengui. Good evening to you. Good evening, Mr. Liu. I'm Ajara from Bengui. The topic is quite interesting. Good evening to you, Ajara. Good evening, Mr. Liu. Please, I would like to know if Matricule is an English word. I'm sure, yes. Good evening, Mr. Liu. Please, yes, it is. Good evening, Mr. Liu. Where is it? Oh, it's coming. Good evening, Mr. Liu. Most civil servants have other businesses running. They want to have matricules as a sure source of income outside their other businesses, and also to use as guarantee to obtain loans from banks for their investments. Thus, the quest for matricules. Boris writing from Bamenda. Boris, I guess you are a civil servant. Good. I beg Mr. Liu allow the young man speak. He wants to make sense. I understand him perfectly. OJ writing. Okay. Good evening, Mr. Liu. The matricule syndrome in Cameroon is also because Cameroonian youths are lazy. They like wearing suits and sitting in offices. If not, we won't be having the vast virgin lands all over the nation. Youths wake up from slumber. Copy from our neighbors, Nigeria. In Nigeria, white-collar jobs belong to the poor. June is writing from Belo. Mr. Liu, good evening. Thank you for the program. One of your panelists is so pessimistic. Okay. No, I'm sure he's expressing the minds of some people. Frederick from Bomenda. Good evening, Mr. Liu. On Matricule issue, many Cameroonians are behind because the government policies do not encourage the private sector. The government creates millions of jobs only on papers and employs millions only on papers. Secondly, lazy people are so much in love with the Matricule issue. Okay. Good evening, Mr. Liu. I'm Cosmos from Douala. I really like your programs. Thank you very much, Cosmos. Good evening, Mr. Liu. We youths are working hard, but our government is killing us from Jian. Most of us are producers of oil, but now making is not going due to bad routes now selling in Nigeria. Our government, our make, okay, Bromis, Chair Bromis, writing from Ewane, Balundo. Good evening, Mr. Leo. Okay, good evening to you too. Good evening, Mr. Leo. I think that many youths should follow what Mr. Teke preaches on your TV every day to use problems as opportunities. Okay, thank you very much. Good evening, Mr. Leo. How many youths who are complaining took part in Mr. Teke's program to empower themselves? Okay, thank you very much. Fabian, writing from Yaoundé. Fabian, I'll also do my findings, please. Just give me 1 minute. Yes.
Yeah, I wanted to say that what Prince is saying, Prince did not say Cameroonians youth are lazy. Prince just simply said it's an issue of orientation. And remember that if you don't have the right information, you may not go far. I am in a university and I speak with students on a daily basis. When I talk with them, you hear they will tell you that what I'm doing is not what I wanted to do. My parents forced me to do banking. My parents forced me to do accounting. My parents forced me to do cyber security. And I asked the child, what did you want to do? He said, me, I wanted to become a businessman. I feel like I had this idea. So it's an issue of orientation. If people are well orientated as far as things are concerned, Mr. Liu, we are looking at Cameroon in the 18th century, and we are in the 21st century world. Mr. Liu, people have gone past that issue of depending on the government. There are so many opportunities in Cameroon now that we can harness as youth. As the only issue is if we are given the right set of orientation. Do you know that in Cameroon now these days you can sit in your home and people go and buy, shop for you and come and give you? Somebody opened that service in this Douala, and there's somebody in my quarter that goes around and take lists of people and go and buy in the market, and they pay him, and that person earns a good money at the end of the day. So we have a lot of avenues. Yes, the government has a role to play, but we should not just limit ourselves to the level of the government, but we should equally assist the government in the few areas that we can by giving proper orientation. Look at the issue that affects tomato sector in Cameroon. Do you know that Nigeria comes and buy land in Limbe, the volcanic land? They sell land in Limbe to Nigeria. But how many people engage in production? The agricultural sector that we keep talking about, the tomato factory that used to exist in Bamenda, Japanese built that tomato sector and manage it well. And when the moment they handed that sector to a Cameroonian, that industry died in Bamenda, and now it became a problem for those who are doing tomatoes, those who are cultivating tomatoes to sell their market. We have to look for other avenues. We have to show the government reasons why we believe that with or without them we can survive somehow, somewhere. Mr. Look at again the entertainment sector. Entertainment sector in Nigeria has employed a lot of people. People have created a lot of jobs within the entertainment sector, and the entertainment sector in Cameroon is still virgin, purely virgin. People need to be orientated to change course. Yes, everybody cannot go into politics, but what if some people engage in entertainment? How many people know that you can sit with your phone and for 8 hours and you can work money with your phone in Cameroon? Very few. But we are engaging in the fact that you must carry a fight, dear sir, dear madam, dear sir, dear madam. No, while you were talking, I did not object. What I'm simply saying is that I make money online without paying taxes. I will say yeah. Because the laws of Cameroon give room for you to make money online without paying taxes. But however, there are some businesses that you must pay taxes because you must institute a building and have a signpost and the rest and the rest. But if there are other sectors that we can harness, education, like you go to Somerset without publicity, they have what we call a barbing salon. I was shocked when I went there last week. Yeah, a barbing salon where students go and learn how to shave their hair, and you learn at the end of the day. If the child in Form 1, Form 2, Form 3, Form 4 leave and graduate by Form 5, leave Somerset, that child can become a professional barber. And wherever that child is, without that education, that paper, that child can have money. So it's an issue of telling our university and our higher educational system to maybe incorporate domestic science we used to have in primary school to secondary schools and universities. Minister Naloba Longa has done something great this time around. She has signed a partnership with Greenhouse Ventures. Greenhouse Ventures is going to create greenhouse system in all the secondary schools, in majority of the secondary school lycées, where those students are going to learn agriculture in greenhouse, how to cultivate. These are things that we needed, and these are things that will empower us. So, Mr. Lo, what I'm simply saying is that our educational system, our universities and secondary schools too can rebrand the way, move to the entrepreneurial sector than telling us who discovered the zero to India, Mungo Park, or who discovered River Niger, Mungo Park, or Christopher Columbus. Christopher Columbus is not helping me. Mungo Park is not helping me. All those things are not helping me. But if I was doing agriculture in school, it would have helped me.
Okay. Are we also suffering? Because if we had a lot of mechanized agriculture, beyond the traditional palm oil and CDCs, if we had many more farms across the nation, it might have pushed Cameroonians to need to invest in agriculture to make money, because you raised the issue, but also investing in mechanized agriculture requires capital. Maybe the government would have created agricultural bank. That is something that was announced some years back, which has never been instituted.
Sure, Mr. Liu, I think that a majority of us are focusing with the Matricule syndrome because we do not actually those companies, because we produce the primary products, we are engaged in the primary products, but the secondary aspect, we are not there. I think that Cameroon is best at primary and tertiary production. Secondary, we are failing. And I remember that when we were still in primary school, Mr. Leo, we were forced to bring either brooms or handwork. But today those things have died. I believe it's 100 francs. Today you just need to pay. And so the fact that, yes, the fact that we do not have those companies that can actually encourage, because I was shocked to know that, Mr. Leo, if you go to a country like China, what we're using as phones is what children in secondary school actually do as handwork. Most things that we use in Cameroon, and like these things are so big, it's what in the developed countries children do them normally. So the aspect that we do not have companies that can actually transform our raw materials, because if we had those companies that could transform raw materials, maybe Cameroonians would have reduced this idea of I must go to a government school, I must go to this because I need this. And another aspect, I think that's why I'll tie a bit with my friend Kotem, is the fact that the private sector, let's look at businesses for instance, is not well structured. It's not well structured because the taxation system in Cameroon, Mr. Leo, is that which, if you start a business with say 50,000 francs, if you are not very conscious, you're going to fold.
50,000?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes. If you start with 50,000, I'm just looking at a young man who sits by the roadside and is maybe selling packets of cigarette, bonbon, and all those other things. If you're not careful, you're going to fold. Why? I'm saying so because the council is going to come and ask you that you're going to pay land fee. That for you to sell here, you need to pay something. Far from that, you're going to have people who come to ask you different taxes. So the taxation system in Cameroon is that which doesn't, to an extent, encourage the private sector. And if all these things were really structured, if these things were organized, it would have encouraged. Because where we are today, Mr. Liu, every Cameroonian, go to the road and do just a light vox pop and ask children, what do you want to become in future? Amongst the 20 children, you're going to talk to them. A majority, some would tell you they want to become ministers, not knowing that it's a ministerial job. Is there a school that trains?
They will not tell you that I want to be a big businessman.
That's it. They will not tell you I want to become a journalist, I want to become a lawyer. They just tell you I want to become a minister, I want to become a DO, I want to become a commissioner.
A gendarme officer.
Is there a school where you come out to become a commissioner? Those things. And I'm still coming back to this aspect, Mr. Liu. Some of you who have children and you are privileged, first of all, to have studied and you know the openings. That is why at times I used to say that money follows money. Not necessarily because you're going to use money, you are educated, one. Two, you know the difficulties and the challenges in Cameroon. It means a junior who is in the house. You're going to tell junior, no junior, I don't want you to do this, I want you to do this. Some of us went to school because my grandma, I said it here, that grandma will tell you, after your advanced level, you're either going to teacher's training or you're coming back to teach. And when you teach, some of the teachers who taught us, they had 15,000 francs as a salary. Those who teach in Douala today, how much do you pay them? The salary is not there, but it's just this issue because you want to get up in the morning, iron your shirt, iron your trousers, wear good shoes, and you're called sir. That's what we're looking for.
We are out of time. Let me take a few messages. Good evening, Mr. Liu. Thanks for the panel. The issue about youth unemployment is all about orientation by school counselors and helping students understand their personality with career choice. It also involves students understanding their passion, abilities, and skills. I tell young people one thing. If you discover yourself and think as a solution provider, you will excel in this country. Agbo. Matelu, Mr. Liu, it's all about a shift of mindset and the right orientation. Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Agbo. Good evening, Mr. Kum, and all those in the studio. Matricule is in French word, not an English word. I think the right word in English should be matriculation number. I found out the right word is the registration number. It's registration number. Yes, I've looked it up. It's registration number, please. Good evening, Mr. Liu. Eneo just sent electricity now. I missed the program, but I know it was awesome. Daisy writing from Kumba. Good evening to you, Daisy. Good evening, Mr. Liu. The government is not helping us in any way. I, for one, tried and opened a store where I feed my family, but I pay huge sum of money as tax, but the council see anytime they need money, draining the little income I have today. They need money for authorization to own a store, etc. What will the poor do to survive in this country? Janine is writing from Douala. Good evening to you, Janine. Good evening again, Mr. Leo and panelists. I'm a 40-year-old man in this country. This is my first year or time to watch younger people sit on a TV studio and talk openly against the administered and point out wrongdoing of our administration. This TV must also have a powerful connection in Yaoundé too. Yeah, it's true. To go by what you are saying, you think that yeah, it's disproving what you are saying here.
How does that prove that, Mr. Leo?
That we are talking here because we have connection. But do we have any connection?
We have connection. They will talk against the government.
Yeah, we don't have any connection, right?
Do we have?
Okay. Okay. Good evening, Mr. Leo. You see, some of us who worked with international companies in Cameroon, we are being employed to work with the Chinese in company, but we don't have a choice of negotiation of category. Most of us are technicians, but are placed as laborers in category range from 1A to 1C and under hard labor. Fonga Abdullahi writing, thanks. Good evening, Mr. Kum. Matricule is a French word and not an English word. I think the right word English is okay. Abdul Maliki, I've found out the right word is registration number. Good evening, Mr. Leo. How can a youth in Cameroon present an agricultural project in cassava processing and packaging and instead was asked to write a CV for them to get him a job? This was what the National Employment Fund told my friends. How can this kind of system help us young Cameroonians? Fruche is writing from Amanda. Fruche, if you have that project proposal, you can contact me after the program. I'll get you connected to Mr. Teke, who's Teke Samuel. I'm sure you guys will work something out. The topic of tonight is very interesting. I personally think the Cameroon government is responsible for the Matricule syndrome because she doesn't encourage the private sector. Okay. I'm sure the word that is used there is matricule syndrome. I did not use matricule number. Yes, I used the word the matricule syndrome. I don't know whether I should have called it matriculation syndrome. Okay, so it is matricule syndrome.
It's a cliche.
Yeah. Yes, so
which is legal.
Don't get us wrong. We have to end here. We want to say thank you to you, Prince Joel, for coming.
Thank you very much, Mr. Liu. We are always privileged to have this opportunity to come and edify Cameroonians on pertinent issues that are affecting the country and the world at large. It's a privilege I was on board. Special good evening to Manda Elvis and to the peace-loving people of Mr. Subdivision.
Okay. We also want to say thank you to you, Kotem, for coming.
Thank you very much, Mr. Leo. It's always my pleasure, and I'm always very happy whenever you invite me because it is a very big opportunity to be able to talk to Cameroonians out there, to edify them on some pertinent issues that are disturbing the country. And I want to send a special good evening to my family back there in Yaoundé, and to also thank everyone who took out time to watch us. Thank you very much. God bless Cameroon.
Okay. We also want to thank you, Tah Mai Javis.
Thank you very much. Special good evening to the Bishop of Boya, His Lordship Michael Bibi, and of course the President of Catholic University of Boya, Professor Victor Jones-Go, and to the peace-loving people of North and Southwest region. Courage, brothers and sisters, do not stumble, and always remember Romans chapter 13 verse 1 to 5.
Okay, yesterday we discussed on part 2 of the letter that was addressed to the U.S. Secretary of State, imposing or pleading with the Biden administration to impose on those involved in the crisis in the Southwest and Northwest regions to put a halt to hostilities. And I have just received a letter of response by the Cameroon government to that letter. that was sent by, I'm sure, the coordinator of the Coalition for Dialogue and Negotiation. I'm going to exploit this, and I'm sure on Monday we are going to look at Cameroon's government's response to that letter by the Coalition for Dialogue and Negotiation. We want to thank Desmond and Eli and Noel and Bertrand, who are working behind the machines to get this program produced. And to you, Tambe Bryant, who is supervising our work tomorrow. Once again, we are going to learn how to make money, how to create opportunities, how to start businesses and make a meaning with Mr. Teke Samuel and his team. Stay blessed. Bye-bye.